all the NLP genius today. All of it. All of it. So if you have a question, put in the comments below, okay? You guys on my personal Facebook page, this is just the behind the scenes of what I do on Tuesdays. So thumbs up, hearts. It's awesome to see you. And if you want to catch all the action, join us right here on my Facebook page. So hello, everybody. Welcome to Coffee is for Closers. Let me just record the audio because I almost forgot to do this last time. So let me start over. Okay. Hello and welcome to Coffee is for Closers. Today is episode number 42. Can you believe it? We have been doing this. It's almost been a year. It's amazing. It's really crazy. But I've always been a really consistent person, and I think this is just really sharing how consistent and consistency can help you in everything in your life. If it's working out, drinking green juice, Gretchen and I were just talking about water. But we have a very special guest today. She was with us maybe about a month ago, and her name is Gretchen Mall. So welcome, Gretchen, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's so awesome to have you here. And I was sharing earlier that I think I'm going to start this NLP training after I learn my Spanish. I want to get fluent and do a podcast episode in Spanish one day. That's like my ultimate goal. And it seems like I have a little ways to go because Spanish is muy difícil. And, I think I just need to move to Mexico for a little while to learn my Spanish. But today is Coffee is for Closers, and it's an honor to have you here. And we are talking today about why people may fear success. And around our whole topic of what we've been talking about for the last few weeks is really how a lot of us talk ourselves out of sales. And really why, maybe the reason why is because we actually have a fear of success. So that's a little bit about our chat today, but thank you again for being here. And if you want to just do a quick hello and intro and who you are and what you do, go for it.
Sure. Well, I'm super thrilled to be here. And I think this is one of those like sneaky things, right? When you ask somebody like, are you afraid of success? They're probably going to say no. And then their actions or the results they get are going to be a little different than what they're saying. So I'm excited to dive in. I am a holistic sales strategist, an NLP practitioner, which basically means I nerd out to why we do what we do and how our brains work and how we process information.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I love how you're a holistic sales strategist, right? Is that what you said? Yeah. I almost said like nutritionist because when I hear of holistic, I think of nutrition. So it's like nutrition for your business.
It is because, and it's going to dive right into this, right? But you know this for sure. Like I can give you the best pitch on the planet, but if you're shaky in your delivery or you feel unworthy or you're afraid of success, you're not going to do very well with that pitch. So you got to treat the whole thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. So our signature recipe for today, I am just going to show everyone who is on the computer. And just real quick, you guys, if you can hit the share button, if you are on Facebook right now, we would be grateful because this is really good information that a lot of people would want to hear. So if you don't mind just hitting the share button real quick, that would be awesome. And if you're on Facebook, on my personal page or Instagram, you guys can share it too, of course. But, okay, back to what we're talking about today with Gretchen. So we are talking about why people may fear success. And the signature recipe for today is why do people fear success? So we're going to get into that. We're going to go over a cup of wisdom because we always have it. And it's usually a really good quote, right, Gretchen? And the main symptoms for fearing of success. Where does the fear of success really come from? And how do you turn the fear around and actually be excited for success? And then we'll leave it with some energy for the soul. So like Gretchen said, she is a master mindset and sales coach, but I like how she added the word holistic, and it's awesome to have you here today. And let's go through just real quick, why would people fear success? And here are a few reasons that we have come up with, but we'll go over some stories and maybe how this actually can apply with your business and what you're doing. Because as entrepreneurs, we've all signed up for 24/7 sales careers. even though you didn't want to do sales, and we don't like sales, and sales is pushy and sleazy, right? But, success could equal change, right? Success could mean making a bigger impact in the world or the community, and that more people are going to know of you. And that can be a little scary. And yeah, hello haters, right? You might have some haters. When you achieve success, you actually have a lot more to lose. And, there's also a lot of pressure, right? And I think for anyone that has experienced a high level of success, all of that might resonate with you a little bit. But like Ted Godwin says, the only thing you have to fear more than failure is success. So, Gretchen, what is your take on that? When you hear that, because I've heard this a lot, and I'm just so curious, and I'm sure everyone listening is really curious from an NLP perspective. We have a fear of failure, right? So like every Wednesday on my podcast, we're talking about the no's and the rejections that we get in our careers to get to our version of success. But really, there's, more than failure, there's the fear of success.
Yeah, I think that's one of those like sneaky things that people don't really talk about. You don't get in there and start really getting into it. But, and I've seen this so many times, what does success mean to you? Right? And whatever it is that you want, this like label of success, it's outside of your comfort zone. Like I guarantee it's outside of your comfort zone. And as you do that, our subconscious brain, our ego, whatever, the devil, whatever you want to call it, that like sneaky part of your brain that says like, oh, you're not worthy, or who are you to, make $1 million a year? It kind of sneaks up on us, and it starts looking at things like, well, who are you to make more money than your parents?
Right.
Or why do you think that you deserve more than, your pastor who's holy, or having a lot of money, whatever that means to you, isn't spiritual. You can't be spiritual and have money. And all of these like subconscious beliefs play into what our version of success is.
So how can someone, that's never, let's just use the money example, right? So someone who didn't come from a lot of money, didn't grow up with it, but they say, I want to get my business to over $1 million, and I'm going to be paying myself $500,000 but they never get to that point, right? Because of how they grew up or whatever it may be. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, we can only see so far in advance, right? So if you grew up like my dad was a plumber, right? So we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up. My dad was an entrepreneur, but if somebody came to him and said, oh, well, you can make $500,000 a year, like he couldn't even comprehend what that was, right? He'd never even come close to making that much money. And so it seems unbelievable. It's like winning the lottery. Like, Sure, you want it, but the odds are just so astronomical against you. Right. So you have to see these incremental things. Like maybe it's not this whole big dream, like I want to make $1 million a year if you've never made $100,000 a year. Right? So what is a believable stretch goal for you, but something that's achievable, right? Like if you've never made $10,000 in a month, maybe you'll start with $8,000. Like $1,000, and then you get to 2, and then 3. Our brains, the way that they're wired, are not wired to see long-term success. Like if anybody's ever had that, like, I'm going to make this New Year's resolution, and then 8 days in, you're like, psych, I'm not doing that. It's because your brain's not wired that way, and it's okay, right? So from an NLP standpoint, you just want to hack what is natural for your brain so that it's easy. You don't want your subconscious working against you all the time.
Yeah, so what are like 2 things that everyone listening can do to have and reach a stretch goal like that?
Great question. So it comes down to really making it believable to you, right? If you don't go there in your brain first, you'll never see it in real life. And so, some quick little fun things like I love to do is like write out a check to myself from the business for the amount that I'm looking for, right? Okay. And then I put it like in front of my desk. I've got one on my refrigerator, right? I see it so that I know, like, again, if you don't see it first, you'll never have it in real life. And so see that check over and over and over again, then it's not so scary to look at, okay, well, here's, the business paid me out $10,000 this month or whatever. The other one I would say is to keep, reminding yourself of these goals, right? The more you say it, the more real it comes. Anybody who's ever read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, that was like the number one thing he said, were these people who were above average intelligence reminded themselves over and over and over again about their goals. And if these like titans of industry do it, like it probably works. I'm willing to get it and not reinvent the wheel.
Yes. Well, no, those are really two important things that, people can implement. And I love the check idea. I am a firm believer in that. So if you want your business to pay you $500,000, write yourself out a check, and, it's the subconscious, right? That it's just you're going to keep seeing it. And I'm a big fan of vision boards too. I feel like every time I make a vision board, everything starts to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's that famous story about Jim Carrey carrying around the check. Anybody who's seen that, like he wrote himself out a check for $1 million for a movie. I think it took him a couple years, but it worked.
Yeah. It always works. Yeah. So Gretchen, let's talk about, the main symptoms from the fears of success. And maybe you can talk about each of these points, but one being self-sabotage, right? Excitement, anxiety comes into play. That negative self-talk, which I think you and I spoke about a couple months ago. Procrastinating on work. And, other people listening might have some ideas, but really, what do you believe are the main symptoms that comes from the fear of success?
It's self-sabotage, like hands down.
Hands down.
Your brand of self-sabotage may be different from mine, right? Like some people's self-sabotage is you get sick and you don't know why, right? Or you get that like, I don't feel like getting out of bed, I'm going to Netflix all day. Or whatever your brand is,
That's crazy.
No, but it happens sometimes, right? We rationalize or, and it all comes up in different ways. Like, have you ever gotten a really big sale and you're super excited about it and then you don't sell anything for 2 or 3 months? Right? And then you kind of average out into what your average income is or what your medium income is. That's a form of self-sabotage.
Huh. So it's like you actually could see success if it were, let's just use the $500,000 check, and you get a new client that pays you $100,000, and then you go back to just taking off the next 10 months because that equals what you used to get every month. So you keep going back to what you got every single month.
Yeah, and as entrepreneurs, like we all have been on that, like if you're making the same exact money every month, like good on you, you're like maybe the only one. So it's this range, right? And so you think like, oh, this is really awesome. You have a really, really big month, and then you don't duplicate it the next month and you start getting on that like, oh, it was a fluke.
Right.
Or I don't know how I did it. How can I do it again? Or people are going to see through me because now they know I didn't do it again or whatever. That's all different forms of self-sabotage.
That's interesting. So what are 1 or 2 things different than what you've already shared because I'm all about putting something into action, because if we don't take action, then we're never going to get to where we want to go, right? And everyone here listening, we're selling high level services, high ticket offers, growing our top line revenues, and on the top line revenue and sales is the livelihood of any business, right? So what are like 1 or 2 things that can help with the self-sabotage issue that some people might be dealing with from your background and what that really could work? That might be something unique we've never, ever heard before.
Well, the first step is to realize that you're doing it, right? And when you're in it, sometimes it's not easy to do. So like, regardless of what's happening, you got to catch yourself. Like, oh, here I am again, rationalizing why this isn't happening, or whatever your brand of self-sabotage is. And then from there, you get to make a different choice. And so maybe that looks like going back to your actual numbers and things that you can control. Right? How many sales calls are you booking? Did you stop your outreach? Did you stop booking calls because you got this big sale before, or because whatever, right? And go back to the things. If I am a huge believer of looking at your numbers, right? Numbers never lie in sales.
Never lie.
No. And so if you are looking at how many sales calls you've booked, if you're looking at how much outreach you've done, how much networking you're doing, or however you're building your pipeline, are your numbers down? Like, that's a symptom of self-sabotage. And why?
Got it.
All right.
Do you guys have any questions for Gretchen right now on self-sabotage? Yes.
Any with them.
Yes, no, maybe so. Please put it in the comments below so we can answer them for you. Because, okay, Gretchen, I have a question for you. Can you give us an example of a time when you had to deal with self-sabotage in your business? And what did you do and how did you overcome it? And then also, can you give us the science behind it with the NLP work that you know on how to overcome it? I know that was
Absolutely.
like 3 things thrown at you, but go for it. I know you can handle all of that.
Yes. So for me, I think the most common form of self-sabotage looks like overwhelm.
Okay.
Right? Like I have this programming, and maybe some of you guys out there have it too, where I think busyness equals success. And so like when my calendar is full, I'm like, I am rocking it. But in general, in business, you get 80% of your results from 20% of your actual activity. And so I can be really busy doing a lot of things that aren't actually income producing.
Yep.
That doesn't work very well, right? But I feel so busy and I feel excited and I'm knocking stuff off my list, and there is something to me really satisfying about crossing something off the list, right? So I get so excited about crossing things off the list, and then I look and my numbers are down, right? I'm not where I projected I should be or where I think I could be. And so then you start looking at, well, what are you actually spending your time on that matters? And that is a constant review for me, because it's easy to get into that place where I feel that sense of achievement.
Right.
Even though at the end of the day, that's not what's putting money in my bank account. And so being aware of what's going on, and that is something that my team and I review every week, because it's not something that I've mastered yet, like total transparency, but I'm aware that it's there. And I think that's the biggest key. Like we're all on this journey and this process. Like if you're perfect, fantastic. You might be the only one, but the rest of us,
I don't think anyone is all perfect. I mean, come on.
Yeah, like, so the rest of us, we're just kind of doing the best we can and altering, right? And so I've found that the more aware I am, the faster I catch myself. So maybe I'll only go an hour or 2 instead of where I would have gone a week.
Yeah. No, that's really, really helpful. So can you talk about, from the NLP standpoint, why this happens? Absolutely. So everyone can understand how their brains are wired? Because I think all of our brains are sort of the same, right?
Pretty much, yes. So if you can imagine your brain as kind of like your office, right? You have your conscious brain is what is on the top of the desk. And everything else that's going on is all the other stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And it can only deal with what's on top of the desk. And so there's a lot of things that don't make it to the front or the top, right? Like nobody today had the idea like, God, I hope my lungs inflate, right? Nobody went, I wonder where the bathroom is, right? Like you already have all that stuff programmed in your brain. And so your brain's not spending any like conscious bandwidth on it. And it's inherently lazy, right? Like there's a thing called frequency illusion, which is, this has ever happened to anybody, like you go and you buy a car and you're so super excited and you bring it home and like everybody on the road has that same freaking car suddenly, right? It's not that they all went and bought the car the same day. It's just that your brain started noticing them. It made it to the top of the desk.
Huh. Frequency illusion is what you, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so more things, right? So again, if you go back to like how to get out of your self-sabotage, you start looking at the money that you want to make. You start looking at the A-type income activities you want to do. The more often and the more likely it's going to make it to the top of the desk where you're consciously being aware of it. When you're conscious of it, you can make that choice and you can take action. But if you are just allowing your subconscious brain to do it, you know, anybody ever get in a car and like you just end up at the gym and you were paying zero attention how you got there, or school or work or whatever, like you're not paying attention and your subconscious brain is doing it.
Yeah, Gretchen, that happened to me. I think I was trying to go to the gym, but I ended up at Starbucks. I'm like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I am not at the place that I thought I was going to.
Yeah, it's because it didn't make it top of your desk. And
it was underneath the desk in the drawer. That's where my brain was.
But that happens to all of us with what we're doing, right? Like, Anybody ever tell the same story over and over and over again, and you know the words are coming out of your mouth, but in your brain you're like totally somewhere else?
Yes.
Subconscious. Again.
Yes, totally. Oh my God, that's hilarious. So, okay, Gretchen, where does the fear of success come from? If you had to like pinpoint it, or...
It's your ego, right? So I always have this image, and if you've seen me anywhere, you've heard this before, but again, repetition is the mother of all mastery.
Right.
Your ego is kind of like these little green army men, right? Remember the little guns, like little toys? But instead of looking out to protect you in this circle, they're pointed in at you to keep you inside your comfort zone, like what is safe. And you want to get this level of success. You want to make more money than you've ever made before. You want to have a bigger team than you've ever had before. You want to have a bigger impact than you've ever had before. You have to run past the army men.
Yeah.
And the minute that you do, those crazy people, they just make the circle a little bigger. And your comfort zone just gets a little bigger, right? So then you get used to making just a little more money.
Yeah.
And then you get used to making just a little more. But every time you have to run past your comfort zone and your ego, the motto is what is known as safe and what is unknown is not safe. So if you're used to making $5,000 a month, like that's your autopilot is always going to allow you to be there. And if you get a little under it, it's going to be like, nope, that's not who you are. And if you get a little past it, it's going to be like, nope, that's not who you are. So you have to make it to the top of the desk and make it intentional.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. And, you know, for those that have been listening to me for a while too, like what I do is how can I put myself in uncomfortable, unknown situations? Because the more we can get comfortable with being uncomfortable, comfortable with being uncomfortable, then we can start achieving these levels of success that you've never had before. Because if you can't have, it's like, I think about, and you tell me the science behind this, Gretchen, but I see it as like a sponge, right? And there's sponge that is old and it won't even like soak up water anymore. And then there's the ones that get like really soaked up all the water and you can be a sponge. And I think to get to a version of success that maybe you've never seen before, you have to be a sponge and you have to be able to take it in. But without getting into this unknown territory, like you said, the green army men with the guns pointing at your head, we kind of need to slowly turn the guns outwards almost.
Yeah, so the science behind that is like, we have all these little, if you think like fiber optics in your brain, these neural pathways, and 20 years ago we used to think that you only got what you got. Like it is what it is. But now we know that you can make new ones and create new ideas and new ways to go. And if you want something different, like you want to learn Spanish, you've got to create neural pathways that are going to allow that to happen. You want to create more success and more money and more sales in your business, you need to create those neural pathways. It's a practice.
Yeah. So let's talk about my Spanish, right?
All right.
My version of success for Spanish is to do a podcast interview in Spanish with somebody for 30 minutes, right? On one of the Wednesday episodes, like a successful entrepreneur, business owner in Mexico. I am not there right now. But for me to get to that level of success, what would I need to do in order
first off, I love that you defined it, right? Because that level of like Spanish mastery may not be somebody else's. They may decide they want to be able to read a book in Spanish or to, be able to write in Spanish, for instance, like that. Those are all different goals. And so defining what it means to you is the absolute first step.
Good. Check. I checked something off my list.
Yeah. Next is to give yourself little rewards, right? Just like if you were, this is going to sound funny, but like training a dog, right? Like they have just like a little attention span and they want treats and rewards all the time. Like we are that way.
Yeah.
So as you complete your Spanish lessons, like once you get to a certain benchmark, give yourself a reward. Celebrate.
I'll have some chips and guacamole for celebration.
Yeah, like tequila shots. Here we go.
Tequila shots. Okay, yeah. Okay, what's the third thing after rewarding yourself? So we have to reward ourselves for good behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get a sale, go celebrate. You hit a benchmark in your business, like celebrate, because what you focus on grows, right? So the more you celebrate and the more excited you are, the more you get to celebrate.
I definitely don't celebrate enough. So I will start celebrating more wins.
Yes. I think that's symptomatic of all of us, right? Because we're usually entrepreneurs or A-type and we're grinded out and hustle, and always moving the line. But really the key to happiness, if we're going to go there, but really like enduring success and getting rid of the overwhelm is to enjoy the journey. And to do that, it's always got to be little pieces, right? Because if it's always like, I'll take a vacation when my business is successful, or I'll be happy when we hire a new CEO, or whatever it is, right? Like that'll never happen. I'll be happy now. And then we'll celebrate then too.
And I made that mistake with my last company. I was always like, I'll have a party when we are in every single vitamin shop store. I will have a party when we're in every single Costco. I will have a party when we have 6 profitable months in a row. And like none of that ever happened. So.
Yeah. And I think that's really, really key for everybody, right? Like if you just keep your head down from a neurological standpoint, you're going to get frustrated and you're going to get overwhelmed and you're going to start having these thoughts like, what did I do? Maybe this isn't for me. Like maybe I'm not, and none of that's necessarily true.
Right.
But you got to celebrate the wins.
We have to celebrate the wins. Okay. What's the third thing?
Don't be afraid of moving the barrier, right? Because that's running outside your circle, right? Getting outside your comfort zone. So yeah, you hit this goal and you had the celebration. Like it's okay to keep setting more goals. Yeah. It's okay to never be fulfilled, right? Well, not fulfilled, but to never be done. That makes sense.
Never get comfortable.
Yeah. It's okay to say, okay, we hit $1 million. Now I want 2. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's enjoying the process. And if you get, and I know you know this is true, like if you get to the point where you start enjoying the sales process, then it becomes a fun game, right?
Oh, I'm all about the fun game. There's a lot of people that listen that, this fear of the no's and the rejections are one hurdle. But then it's like, oh, well, what about the 180 on the other side? And it's this fear of success. And it's like, oh, I've never even made more than, some people I've talked to. Like, I'll give you an example. One girl who I was working with, I think she never earned over like $3,000 a month, and she wanted to have her business doing $15,000 a month. And what I realized was that it was actually this problem. It was actually the fear of success that was holding her back in everything she did, because that's just that's all she knew, right? Mm-hmm. So for those people, how do you really shift that? And I think you've given some really good tips and strategies on what you can do, because this is possible for anybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's incremental. I think that's maybe the biggest thing to look at, right? So if like the rich version of you who's earning $15,000 a month has like, gorgeous underwear, for instance, just as an example, but the ones that you have all have holes in them and you have looked at them in 15 years, like maybe just, you don't have to go spend $1,000 on a pair of underwear, but maybe go to Target and buy some that don't have holes in them. Like little baby steps, right?
Right.
Like maybe you don't order the full bottle of champagne at dinner, but you get a glass because you're celebrating. And it's just those little baby steps that will grow your comfort zone.
Yeah. And I talk about it. It's like you have to be that person first, then you have to do it, and then you'll have, right? The be, do, have.
Absolutely.
What's the NLP take on that? It's about what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's the act as if, right? So here's like a really great action step that I make all my clients do. Sit down and really write out like what your goal is, whatever it is. If it's $15,000 a month, like what does $15,000 a month Michelle look like? What does she wear? What does she eat? What time does she wake up? Where does she live? Where does she work? All of those things. And then when you look at that list, I guarantee there's something that you can do right now.
Yeah.
Right? So like, and look at this all the time. Like it changes all the time. Like for me, for instance, it's totally true. I started looking at my face and I'm like, you know what? The rich version of Gretchen, she puts on night cream every night. Every night. Not just like some nights or when she feels like it or when she's not lazy. Like every night she takes care of her skin. Yeah. And that costs me $0. Like I don't have to go out and, get $1 million house loan right now. But it's a habit that I can do every day to more embody that version of myself.
Oh, that's That's good. And for those of you listening, what I do is I just go, if you buy those things, you just buy those things. Or if you want to, I also believe, Gretchen, you need to be around those types of people too. So if you are trying to grow a business that's over $1 million or up to 5 million or something, those are the types of business owners that you need to be surrounding yourself with and being in these conversations, because otherwise you're only going to be able to, you are who you hang around, right?
Oh yeah. I tell my kids that all the time, right? If you hang out with 4 drug dealers, you're the 5th.
Right.
My kids are dealers, but
you're the 5th. Yeah. I don't know if anyone here is like dealing drugs, but anyway.
You get it though.
Yeah, I got it. B do have. So Gretchen, what's your take on how you can really turn the fear around and be excited for your success? Like, how do you turn it into excitement and like flip it on its head?
Well, you guys may have heard this before, but the chemical that your brain produces of fear is the exact same one as excitement. Like, anybody who's ever been in line at a roller coaster and you've never ridden it before and you're like, oh, this is really exciting, I might poop my pants, I don't know, right? Like that kind of like wavering moment, it's the same thing. Huh. And so if you can be aware, right, like, oh, I'm really, really, really scared, but I'm really excited. Like, it's just a subtle difference, right? So instead of I can't afford this, like, I'm excited for the day that I can't afford this. Right? It's a little shift, but it's such a big impact on your mindset and what your brain and your subconscious can do for you.
That's a good example. What's 2 more examples like that one?
Instead of, I can't do this, right? I'm excited for when I can. That I'm excited for is always good. Or, I am is really huge, right? So instead of like, I don't have a team or I don't know how to do this or whatever, like, I am doing this. Maybe not exactly at this moment, but it is happening.
Yeah.
What's another big good shift? I don't know, it's eluding me. Give me a problem, I'll tell you.
Give you a problem. What about, let's just talk about revenue, You want to grow a business to $500,000 or more.
Okay. So, I don't know how, but I trust. Right? Because a lot of times we're not sure how. And to be honest with you, if you made a comprehensive 10-step plan to make it to $500,000, I guarantee you'll get to step 3 and then you're going to change everything else. Right? So worrying about the how is way less important. So I don't know how this is working, but I trust. So the next time that somebody says no, or you lose this big contract that you really thought was in the bag or whatever, I don't know how this is working for me, but I trust that it is.
Or I trust that the next contract will be the right one.
Yeah, or I don't know the next step to take, but I trust that when it comes to me, it'll be easy to take action and I'll know it immediately.
Love that. That's a good one. I like the trust one. Yeah. You guys, does anyone have comments, questions for Gretchen? Put them in the comments below. I don't see any questions yet. And also, if you're watching, if you don't mind sharing this on your pages, that would be great. There's a lot of comments on Instagram, but hold on a sec.
Yeah, this is a really great topic because I think so many people, they don't recognize in the beginning that they're afraid of success, right?
No, I don't think it's similar to sales, I think. So I think a lot of people don't think they have a sales problem, right? Like you have your business and if your top line revenue is a little bit flat or not growing and you think you have a product problem or service problem, like who would even know they had a sales problem, right? Yeah,
well, it's one of those, like an outlier almost, right? Like because it shows up in these different ways, like it shows up as self-sabotage, or it shows up as I can't keep talent, or it shows up as not hiring the right people or whatever. Like we blame it on this other stuff when in reality it's our upper limit that we've hit.
Right. And you need to create a stretched limit or a stretched, a stretch goal, as he's called it.
Yeah. If anybody's ever read The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, he talks about that all the time. It's a fantastic book, but just we all have this ceiling of what is normal for us. And a lot of us are high performers. Like we are making good money, but we're not making the best that we could because we're not in that absolute zone of genius. And it looks like we don't outsource like we should, or we start doing all these admin things that we don't actually need to be doing, or we let our calendar get really busy, even though it doesn't have to be a Gretchen thing. It just has to be a get done thing.
Right. Yeah, no, it's so interesting. So maybe can you share just real quick and we'll wrap up. So I work with a lot of CPAs and we work on their sales, and a lot of them are now increasing their fees to their clients, right? And really gaining that confidence to do that. But some of them have increased their revenue by 25-35% just by doing that simple step. Big step, right? But simple step. What is, a CPA listening, what is something that they can do to really have that confidence to do that? Because they might not think that they're worth it, or whatever the stories are in the head that we've talked about, but maybe specifically for them.
I have a couple CPA clients too, and the biggest thing that shows up over and over and over again are boundaries. Right? When you set this list, like, these are the things that I am willing to accept, these are the fees that I charge, and I am worth that, and anything above this, right? Like, your midnight emergency is not my midnight emergency type thing. Like, being able to exercise those boundaries is a huge, huge win, not just for your subconscious ego, but I think, like, in general for the universe, for life, like, exercising these boundaries and showing up, you get what you are willing to receive, right? People treat you the way you allow them to treat you. And
I agree.
You want to make more money, you want to grow your business or whatever, like, you have to, like, really, really fiercely guard your, I don't want to say, like, vibe necessarily, but, like, your energy, like, what actually makes it to your desk. And if that looks like a gatekeeper that really keeps things clean for you, absolutely. That looks like a salesperson on your team, like whatever it is for you, you will make more money just staying within your boundaries.
Yeah, I talk a lot about boundaries, but for anybody listening, that applies to your business too, not just to the CPA. So, well, thank you so much, Gretchen, for sharing everything today. It's always such an honor to be here with you. Is there any other last words that you want to leave with everybody listening today?
Just take action, right? I think a lot of times for us, we get in this, I say us, but in general, we get in this, like, learning mode, like, oh, I didn't know I could be afraid of success. And then you want to, like, read 50 books about it and buy a course before you take action. Like, you don't need any of that. Like, pick one thing today, whether it's, like, the little simple upgrades or the boundary thing or, writing out a check to yourself for the money you want to make. Like, take one action step and implement it. You can do it.
Love it. Thank you so much, Gretchen, for being here with us. We are signing off, and you guys have an awesome rest of your week.
Bye.